Welcome to round 2 of the Unit 1, Lesson 1 sentence practice video. Just like in the first round of videos, I will prompt you with 5 English sentences, and it will be your job to try to translate those sentences into Korean. The first sentence I would like you to try is, that teacher is a man. I'll give you 10 seconds, and you can start now. Okay, the word for that in Korean, it could be either 그 or it could be 저. It doesn't really matter in this situation because we're only really concerned about translating this. It really depends on what meaning I wanted, and it really doesn't matter. I'll just use 그, but just know that you could have used 저 if you wanted to. So I have 그 to refer to that, whatever the noun is going to be. It could be that thing or that car or that house or that person. But the noun that comes after that is going to be teacher. And the word for teacher in Korean is 선생님. So it's going to look like this. 선생님. Now, that's the subject of my sentence. So I'm going to add the subject particle onto that. I'm not going to add nun. I'm going to add un. And the reason why I'm adding un and not nun is because 선생님 ends in a consonant, and therefore I need to add un and not nun. Now, I want to indicate that the teacher is a man. The structure for this is what you learned in Lesson 1, and what you would need to do is, well, first I need to put the translation for the word man, and it's 남자. And 여자 means woman or girl, and man is 남자, and it could be boy or man or something like that. Now, in Korean, if you ever want to indicate that something is something, in this case, a teacher is a man, if you want to indicate that something is or are or was or were or any of that, any of those to be words, any of these to be words, it's the word ida in Korean. Now what you do is, it's not really the same structure as to be in English. Ida actually gets attached directly to the noun that is the thing. So in this case I have 남자 and I put ida right after it. So it looks like this. Just to point out that this is the base form of the conjugation of ida. There are other ways that you could conjugate this, but you'll learn this in Lesson 9. Just to point out, just in case, if you're curious, which you probably are, you could write this as 남자야, or you could write 남자예요, or you could write 남자입니다. For example, maybe I'll even write that one down. You could write 남자입니다. And in this case, you could actually write ida, but this is just sort of a non-conjugated plain form way. And this would be a very informal way. This 남자야, this would be informal. And this 남자입니다 would be very formal. But at this point, I would suggest that you don't really worry too much about the formalities and just get used to the sentence structure. This sentence would read, 그 선생님은 남자이다. The next sentence I would like you to try is, that man is a teacher. I'll give you 10 seconds, and you can start now. All right, here we go. Oh, look at this. You can see what I did here. I really just, I use the same words in this sentence. I just sort of switched these two around. So hopefully this didn't take you very long, because really what we're doing is we're creating the same sentence, but we're just going to switch the word teacher and man. Again, you could use 그, you could use 저. It doesn't really matter. It would matter because the meanings are different, but in this situation, I'm not really focusing that much on which that it is. So you could have used either one. It would depend on what meaning you specifically wanted to refer to. I'll use 그, and in this case, again, it's not that teacher, but instead it's that man. So I'm going to write 큰 남자. And just like up here, I have the subject particle on 선생님, but in this case, I have to put it on 남자. In 남자 ends in a vowel, where 선생님 ends in a consonant. So I added un here, but for 남자, I need to add 는, because 남자 ends in a vowel. Now I need to indicate what this man is. Well, the man is a teacher. And I already know that the word for teacher is 선생님, so it's up here. So I'll write it, and it's 선생님. Now, in this case, I've really just created the exact same sentence as I've done up here. I've just switched these two words. So I, again, just need to add 이다. 이다. And as I mentioned up here, I could say 그 남자는 선생님이야. I could say 선생님입니다, or I could use other types of conjugations for 이다. But this is sort of the plain form of the conjugation. And this sentence would read 그 남자는 선생님이다. The next sentence I would like you to try is this thing is a bed. Just to point out, as I mentioned in lesson 1, this sentence could actually just be written as this is a bed, but the word for thing is kind of in there. So I put it in brackets just to make sure that you actually know that I'm referring to the word that sort of means this thing. I'll give you 10 seconds and you can start now. Okay, the word for this, as we saw up here, the word for that, if the thing that you're talking about is something that you're referring to from a previous sentence, you use 그. If it's that, as in somebody or something that you can see from far away and you're pointing to it from far away, you use 저. But if you're referring to this, you use 이. And this is a word on its own if you're talking about some other noun. So for example, if you want to say this man or this teacher or this car, all of those would actually have a space in between E and the next noun. However, the word for this, as in this thing, as in just the actual word meaning this, is a word in itself, and it's simply 이것. Now, you could translate this to this thing because 것 actually means thing, but you could also just think of the meaning or the translation of this word itself as simply this. Now, what I have so far is just this, and that's the subject of my sentence, so I'm going to put here, and right now this just says this, and I'm waiting to see what this thing is, or what this thing is doing, or whatever I want to talk about later on in my sentence. Well, what I want to do is indicate that it is a bed. So I know it's going to be the same structure that we learned in Unit 1, Lesson 1, and I know it's going to be the same structure that we see here and here, which means I'm going to have 이다 at the end of it, because what I'm doing is I'm indicating that something, in this case it's this, which is the something, is whatever goes here. And whatever goes here, well, that's going to be a bed. And the word for bed in Korean is 침대. So 침대 looks like this. And that would read that this thing, or simply just this, is a bed. And this sentence would read 이것은 침대이다. The next sentence I would like you to try is I am a Korean person. I want to point out that you actually really haven't learned how to make this type of sentence, but actually you have. In English, you might look at this and say, well, okay, in Korean, I know how to say Korea, but I don't know how to say Korean. Actually, when you write the sentence in Korean, just imagine that you're actually writing it as I am a Korea person. And don't really worry about this N here when you do the translation into Korean, because actually the way that the Korean sentence looks is they don't really consider this N, and they would simply just translate this to I am a Korea person. I'll give you 10 seconds to think about that and write it down, and you can start now. Okay, so this sentence is actually very similar to the structure of the 3 sentences that we saw earlier. It starts off with the subject, and that's I. So I'm going to start by putting the subject I. You could, if you wanted to, you could put 저, which also means I as well. But in this case, I'll just use this one. Now that's the subject of the sentence, so I'm going to put 는 on it. After that, I want to indicate, well, who or what or whatever I am. And as I said before, the translation or the word for am or is or was or were, and all those to be words is 이다. It's all 이다, and that's sort of confusing for an English learner, but it actually is easier because if you think about is, was, were, and be, and am, all those things are different words in English. Well, I guess technically they might be the same word, but they sort of all look different from each other. Whereas in Korean, they're all really the same thing. It's all just that, and you don't really have to worry about who the subject is, because it's he is, they were, and I am. There's all these different things. But in Korean, it's all just ida. So I'm going to indicate that I am. So ida is going to come at the end of the sentence. And I want to indicate that I am something. So you can really indicate anything here. In this big space, you can say anything. You could say, I am a horse. Well, I'm not a horse, but I could indicate that I am a Korean person. And as I indicated before I gave you the time to write the sentence, you actually don't really need to worry about this N. So I actually know the word for Korea in Korean, and that's Hanguk. So I'm going to write it like this, Hanguk. And that just says Korea. And I'm going to write the word for person in Korean, which is 사람. So it's just looks like this, 사람. Now, there's a big space here, and there shouldn't be a space because ida should actually be attached directly to the thing that it's talking about. So I'm going to erase that and move it over. So it's ida like this. And that's actually the way that you would write it. This sentence would read, 나는 한국 사람이다. Just to point out that you could actually say that you are from any country or that you are a person of any country by changing Hanguk or changing the country to whatever your country is. So for example, if you are from England, the word for England is 영국. And you could simply say 나는 영국 사람이다. And that would say that you are an England person or an English person, or I guess you could just say that translates to I am British. You could also translate that to, or you could also write 나는, if you know the word for America, which is 미국, you could say 나는 미국 사람이다, and that translates to I am an American person. You could put another country, and this is where I'm from Canada. You could say that I am from, and this is the easiest one to know because Hanguk and Yeongguk and Miguk are all, in English, I don't call Korea Hanguk, and I don't call England Yeongguk, and I don't call America Miguk. I call them by their English names. But Canada is an easy one because it actually follows the English name, which is just Canada. So I can say 나는 캐나다 사람이다, and that means that I'm Canadian. But anyways, you can put whatever your country is in this place, and you could indicate that you are from that country or you are a person of that country, or whichever way you want to think about the translation, it would work that way. The next sentence I would like you to try is, that city is Incheon. You probably haven't seen this word before. Well, maybe you have if you've flown into Korea because the big airport is in Incheon. But try to think about how this would be spelled using the knowledge that you learned in Unit 0 and make this sentence that says, that city is Incheon. I'll give you 10 seconds and you can start now. Okay, I want to start off by writing the word that, and again, it could be 그 or it could be 저. It doesn't really matter. I'll just use, I guess I'll use 저 because I haven't really used that all that much in this lesson. So you would use this one in the situation that you're sort of far away looking at something. So maybe in this situation, you're driving by Incheon and from far away, you're sort of looking at it and somebody asks, hey, what city is that? And you can say, well, that city is Incheon. So you'd write this, and again, you could put, if you just wanted to say that is Incheon, you could just put 저 것은, and that would sort of say that thing, which doesn't really make sense in this situation because it's not really a thing, but in theory, you could do that. That's not what I want to translate, though. I want to indicate that it's that city. So there should be a space here, and the word for city is 도시. 도시. That's the subject of my sentence, so I'm going to put 는 on it. Now, just like all the previous sentences I've seen in this video, I want to put something here and then ida. Now, I'm indicating that that city is, and something has to go here, and what has to go here is Incheon. And this is not a word that I'm ever going to include in my lesson simply because it's a proper noun and it's just the name of a city. If I included this one, I'd have to include the name of every city in Korean, and I don't want to do that. But you can look and see how this would be spelled. It's in is the first syllable, it's just this part here, and then cheon. So it's going to be the CH sounding letter, followed by the followed by the, I guess, the N sound, and it's Incheon like that. And this sentence would read, 저 도시는 인천이다. Well, that was fun. I hope you learned a lot.